All right, guys. It turns out that yesterday I neglected to press record for the little Zoom meeting that I did with Jennifer and Alex. So I want to go over what we went over here. Okay, so I initially sent out 8 videos, and you're going to want to look at those 8 videos. Those 8 videos represent what I initially call the 8 phases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Within those 8 videos, we have the nuts and the bolts of each one of these phases. The first phase we call the integration phase. And I'm just going to put shorthand on there. The second phase is the force of life. Within this 8-phase system, phase number 3 is what we call the primary standing. The next phase is called the balance phase. And the secondary standing. And then you might notice the core and spinal toning, hip openers and inversions, and finishing and shavasana. So within those videos, you have a whole series of postures that you can choose from to comprise your gratitude way class. Now, initially, when I do these 8 phases, they correspond to 8 weekends, which is what represents the 8 weekends for an RYT 200, the Registered Yoga Teacher 200. So each weekend, weekend number 1, we go over in detail the integration phase, how to assist the integration phase, the intention of the integration phase. We teach the integration phase together. We go over the integration phase. I also offer 2 or 3 other variations of sequencing that we can do for the integration phase. Now, this initial 8 phases was created when there were 90-minute classes and 75-minute classes. Now that the industry has shifted, there's only 60-minute classes, maybe some 75-minute classes, but 90%, 95% of the classes are only 1 hour long. So I was forced to create 6 phases. And the way that we go from these 8 phases down to 6 phases is we take the primary standing, the balance, and the secondary standing, and we combine that into one phase that you're familiar with, the terminology that we call the body of work. Okay. Now I sent in along with this video a body of work video that I did on Zoom for the group at Alchemy. Okay. I'm just going to go over it because I think the body of work is one of the biggest challenges that newer teachers have in putting it together, because the body of work is the largest portion within the hour class. So I'm going to go over the basic poses right now in the body of work for you. You always want to start the body of work after your third sun salutation B. And you always want to begin with crescent lunge. And we're going to start always on the right leg. Continuity, congruency, consistency, and it just helps people to understand where they're going. You work your right leg in regards to the ascending colon. You work your left leg, the transverse, the descending colon. So I'm just going to go ahead and abbreviate. After crescent lunge, we're going to do crescent twist. The crescent twist is where you bring your hands to prayer and twist. From crescent twist, we come up to warrior number 2, which is a big movement. We come all the way up and around. Warrior 2 goes into side angle pose. Side angle pose, you come back up and you move into triangle pose. After triangle pose, you come up into prasarita. And after prasarita, you finish, and I'm just going to designate it with like a pyramid, like that, a pyramid pose. Now, after you're done with pyramid pose, where your right leg is out in front of you and you're stretched over it, then you vinyasa, or we call it flow. And if you guys remember, the vinyasa or the flow is high plank to low plank, upward dog, back to downward dog. And what the vinyasa or the flow does is it clears the slate from the whole right side that you just did. And then we repeat that on the left side. And then you step your left foot forward, crescent lunge, and crescent twist to warrior number 2, to side angle, to triangle, to prasarita, to pyramid pose. So if you remember, prasarita is wide-legged, where you're forward folding and you're coming down. Sometimes we don't know the terminology. Now, when you complete that and you finish your triangle pose, your body of work is 99% done. Now, let me back up a little bit. If you recall, the initial 8 phases here, the primary standing, the balance, and the secondary standing is created into the body of work. You might say, well, where is the balance for this? Well, what we do is we put a small little area on the end of the body of work that we designate balance. We call it balance. All the right side, all the left side. When you're complete with this, we want to choose, because for the sake of time, and also when you choose a balance pose, you want to choose a posture that I feel the student base in general can work with, and also the student base can progress within. So what we found is Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana. Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana, you grab the knee, or you can encourage students to grab the toe, opening it out to the right and coming back to center. So let's call that hand to knee. From hand to knee back to airplane on the right. And then we'll do hand to knee on the left to airplane. And when you're complete with that, then we'll do tree on the right and tree on the left. Now, eventually you can do any 3 balance poses. I just think that it's important to end with tree. Tree is a simple shape. It helps you to ground down. It's a great way to designate the end of your body of work and allow you to go ahead and move forward onto the next phase. Okay, so hand to knee. You always want to mirror the students as well. So if you're facing the student base and they want to bring up their right knee, you make sure that you bring up your left knee and you open it out. You just direct them to them. Open your leg out towards the right and draw your left arm towards the door we came in, kind of thing. And that will complete the body of work. So to build up, now if you notice, we have 2 phases that come before the body of work. The integration phase, that's the phase where we walk in, welcome everybody. The sun salutations are very simple. We do 3 sun salutation A, 3 sun salutation B. Now this initial phase here, as far as timing is concerned, when you're done, the integration phase and the force of life, you should be done at about 15 minutes. So, let's say you start at noontime, at 12:15, you're pretty much done with that. The body of work should run about 20 minutes, 18 or so minutes. So as you complete this body of work, you're coming in at about 12:40-ish. which leaves you 20 minutes to finish in what these last 3 phases, or sometimes I designate these last 3 phases as what I call the final approach. So the final approach, after you're done with your final balancing position in your body of work, you take the students down to the floor. Now, in general, we want to work Shalabhasana A, where your arms are back, Shalabhasana B, where your hands are interlaced behind your back, and bow pose. Shalabhasana A, B, bow. I keep it really simple. Shalabhasana A, B, and then I call it bow. Of course, it's not the body of work, but it's bow. When we're done with that, we shift over to our backs, and then we do bridge or Urdhva Dhanurasana or wheel. You can interlace your fingers underneath your lower back there. Shalabhasana A, B, bow, bridge or wheel. And then you want to do like 2 to 3 abdominal exercises. And that concludes the core and spinal toning. That phase should literally should take no longer than 5 minutes. Shalabhasana A, you're lying on the floor, you take 3 or 4 breaths, you're done. Lace your hands at your lower back, Shalabhasana B, 2 or 3 breaths, you're done. And then bow pose, 2 or 3 breaths. That should only be about 90 seconds. You come to your back, you do another 2 or 3 breaths in bridge or wheel, maybe do 2 sets of them. You're at 3.5 minutes, and then you do some abdominal exercises, 5-6 minutes, and you're done. Now, when the core and spinal toning phase is still a part of the heat building and the rigor building. But when we hit hip openers and inversions, you're lying on your back, you've just done your abdominals, you're ready to go. So you can invite your students to stay on the back for figure 4 on the back, or have them vinyasa to downward facing dog pose. So you can go get them into downward dog pose and then take them into half pigeon. Okay, so down dog to half pigeon on the right, down dog, half pigeon on the left. That should you about 2 minutes on one side, about 2 minutes on the other side. Then when you're on your front side, you want to swing the legs forward for inversion. So you can do Viparita Karani, where your legs are up an imaginary wall. You can invite students to come all the way back to plow pose. Or of course, if you wanted to take them up into shoulder stand, you can do that. So now we're at about 12:55 and we're done for and then we're ready for finishing poses. 12:50 or so. That's where you take them. You're done with the core and spinal toning. You're done with the hip openers and inversions. And now you can bring them into a finishing pose, which can be, depending on the time, depending on how much time we invested in the body of work, it could be a spinal twist right, it could be a spinal twist left, and then that's it in Shavasana. So that is the basic overview that we went over yesterday. We didn't quite get to the end there. That's why I wanted to put this small video together and send it to you guys. So in addition to this video, I'll also send a sample body of work that you can take yourself through. And what I suggest that everybody does at Gratitude initially here is work the 6 phases, okay? The integration phase, the force of life, the body of work, core and spinal toning, hip openers, inversion, Shavasana, and finishing. These 2, about 15 minutes. This one, about 20 minutes. So 20, 35. So you're at 40. We got, this one's about 5 minutes. So 20, 35, 40, and then we're right about here for another 5 minutes. We're at 40, 45 to 50, and then this brings you right down to the hour. Here is where we want to chant AUM 3 times with people, and then at the end we want to chant AUM as well. Now, once we, as a team, continue rowing in the same direction and really mastering this simple fundamental template for our student base, what I plan on doing is I've created 10 or so integration phases, 10 or so body forces of life, 10 or so bodies of work, and so on, and final approaches where you can start to get more creative and really stretch your creative ability to sequence, but staying within this vinyasa krama, or this basic curve that we do, where the peak right here is where it's the most intense. All right, man. So I hope you guys, I hope this is helpful. I think if we need to meet again on another Zoom call, I'm all for it. Let's put it together. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for your time.